Welcome back to the 7th college basketball weekend predictions video. Let's get right into the recap of last week, and we had a very successful week, going 5-1 on the locks and 10-4 on the games. That brings us to a total record on the locks of 23, 14, and 1, so we're hitting at above a 62% clip right now. And we did well in the game predictions too, with our best week at 10-4. We're now up to 59 and 32 on those as well. Moving on to some locks for this week. The slate is pretty sparse, so I only have 4 locks. And let's get started with Arkansas and Missouri. Missouri has wins over Tennessee, Illinois, Arkansas the first time, and Alabama, but they are coming off a loss to Ole Miss, and that has Vegas undervaluing this team, as they've done throughout the season, but it's at home for Missouri. I think they're going to come back, and this is going to be an easy win for them, much less covering. Well, they don't have to cover a spread, but the pick'em. For Arkansas, they have not beat any SEC top-tier teams. That's all I really have to say to them. A good record, probably in the tournament right now, but this would be a huge win for them to improve their seeding at 15-5 right now. So give me Missouri to cover. Then we'll move on to the other side where we've got North Carolina and Virginia. UNC has wins over Stanford and Syracuse. They've got Bacot, Brooks, and Love, and I don't think either of these teams are really that good. Virginia has wins over Syracuse and Clemson. We've got Kie Clark, Huff, and Hauser, but I think both of these teams are pretty overrated, and I think it'll be a good close game at Virginia here. So give me North Carolina to win and cover the spread here, but at least cover that 7-point spread. Then we move on to TCU and Texas. TCU is playing good ball right now. They have wins over Liberty, Oklahoma State, and Texas A&M. And they are playing better as of late, beating Oklahoma State the second time. And Texas, meanwhile, has wins over Kansas and West Virginia, and has been in a little bit of a rough patch as of late. They did recover with a win, but they had lost to OU, Baylor, and Oklahoma State, so that was a little bit of a rough stretch. So I think TCU will come in here and cover that 13-point spread, and they could even win the game. Texas is a little overrated at 13-point favorites against a good TCU team. Next up, we've got Villanova and Creighton in our last lock. Creighton has wins over UConn twice, Xavier, St. John's twice. They've got Mahoney, and they're a really good team, but I just think Villanova is going to win this game by 2 or more points. Villanova really only has a win over Texas, so they could really use some beef in their schedule. But Colin Gillespie, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Justin Moore, and Caleb Daniels, I think that this staff will get it done here. And I just don't really trust Creighton, even at home. They lost to Butler, so I don't really trust them. Give me Villanova to win by at least 2. And then another Big East game, not a lock, just UConn and Xavier. UConn has a win over USC. They've lost 4 out of their last 5. Meanwhile, Xavier has wins over Oklahoma and St. John's. And I think it's worth noting that a lot of these Big East teams aren't that good, and the ones that are good, Xavier and Villanova, have not played that much, so there's not really any opportunity for Big East teams to get good wins, which is horrible for the conference, but they're probably going to end up with a decent amount of teams in the tournament regardless. Xavier also has Fremantle and Scruggs, and I think that they will win this game. Last of all, we've got some other notable games from Saturday, starting with the blockbuster Oklahoma-West Virginia game, and I honestly wasn't sure who to pick in this game. West Virginia's playing really hot as of late. They've got wins over Texas Tech twice, Oklahoma State, and Kansas. And since they're hot right now, I'm going to go with them to win this game. And Oklahoma has good wins over Texas, Kansas, WVU, and Alabama. And Reeves and Manick, obviously, are very good players. Not sure if they'll have Reeves back, but even if they do, I'm taking West Virginia to win at home. Always tough to play at West Virginia. Next up, we've got one out of the WCC. We've got Gonzaga and USF. So Gonzaga are the heavy favorites here, obviously. They have a loaded team, Kispert, Ayai, Timmy, Suggs, Nemhard. They've got wins over Kansas, WVU, Iowa, BYU twice, and Virginia. And USF has a win over Virginia. So both of these teams have that win. But I'm going to give Gonzaga the edge here, even at USF because I just think they're one of the best teams in the nation and they're going to get it done. Next up, we've got one out of the Big Ten. We've got Indiana and Ohio State. Ohio State's got Liddell and Washington, and they've got a good win over Illinois. Indiana's wins over Providence and Stanford, and Jackson Davis is a good player for this team. But give me Ohio State to win at home, especially. Indiana has been playing good Big Ten competition close, but Ohio State has been playing well. They also have the win over UCLA in the non-conference, and I think they're going to take this one here. Next up, we've got one out of the SEC, LSU and Tennessee, and I think both of these teams are a bit overrated. I was so close to almost taking Tennessee minus 1.5, but I just can't really trust them. Tennessee has great wins over Missouri, Arkansas, and Colorado. They've got Pons and Bailey, and they've been struggling a little bit down the stretch, and they've been seeding some of these games against easier opponents. LSU, they have a good record, and they're rolling over most of their SEC competition, but they've lost 4 of their last 6, so they're not actually that good. But at home, this could be a scary matchup for Tennessee, who infamously lost to Kentucky a couple weeks back. I think that was on the road as well. Moving on to the Missouri Valley Conference good game here, we have Loyola Chicago and Drake, and I've been waiting for this matchup for a long time. Like 4 or 5 weeks back, I predicted Loyola Chicago to beat Drake when Drake was undefeated. I just knew Drake wasn't good. Then they lost, so now everyone's on the Loyola Chicago train with the AP poll ranking them. Either way, I've got Loyola Chicago here. I think they're the better team. Neither team really have any good wins, but at least Loyola Chicago's losses were mostly to good teams, so give me Loyola Chicago to win on the road. And we've got Georgia and Alabama. And Georgia doesn't have any good wins, even though they have a good record. They just brought most of that from the out-of-conference. They're only like 5 or 6 and 7 in league. Whereas Alabama's wins over Tennessee, Florida, Arkansas, and LSU twice. They're a great team, and I think that they can really beat anyone. Even though they lost to Missouri, I was really impressed by the press they put on in the last 2 minutes. They're just a more athletic team than most of these other SEC teams. And now they pretty much do have the conference locked up, as Missouri suffered a loss this week, but give me Alabama to continue their role here against Georgia. Then we've got Oregon and Arizona. Oregon has a win over Stanford. Arizona has a win over Colorado. Arizona's got Akinjo, where Oregon has Omwari and Duarte. So both of these teams are pretty good. Oregon's been struggling down the stretch, and they were a much better team earlier on. They're going to start to put the pieces together, and I think they'll beat an Arizona team on the road. This will be a really good game. Arizona usually plays the better Pac-12 competition close, so expect this one to be a good one, but I've got Oregon here just outlasting Arizona on the road. Then we've got one out of the Big Ten, Iowa and Michigan State. Iowa has Garza and Weiskamp, and they've got a great offense for that team. They've got wins over Rutgers twice, Minnesota, UNC, and Purdue. And Michigan State really only has a win over Rutgers. They kind of stink. I mean, they did beat Duke on the road in the out-of-conference, but now Duke stinks. So I think Michigan State isn't good. I think this one has the potential to be very close because Iowa hasn't been playing the best as of late, but give me Iowa to win and take another tough road game in Big Ten Conference play. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe and comment your predictions below.